Hello my bookish lovelies, Kira here, and today I'm going to be doing a review for a book that I have recently read that I am very excited to discuss with you guys because I have been bursting at the seams. I have been kind of sitting on this for about a week because I haven't had a chance to film it. So I'm finally filming it and I'm really excited to share this with you guys. I've also known a little bit about this author for a while, so I'm just really excited that I finally got to read one of his works. The book is The House in the Cerulean Sea, and this book, by far and above, was perfection. I absolutely loved it. It made me so happy to read it. It was a perfect balance of comedy and serious messages, like just very profound, and I had such a good time reading this. I just had to discuss it with you guys. Hey guys, Editing Kira here. I really wanted to try to do this book justice as far as the review goes. I did the best I could. This is one of those books like that you can't really capture perfectly unless you've read it, and if I add anything else to this, and I mean anything at all, what's going to happen is it's going to lead to spoilers and it might ruin some of the magic for you. So I tried to do the best I could without spoiling it for you guys because I really want you guys to read it, and I really want you guys to feel the same magic for this book that I did. So okay, bye! The biggest trigger warning in this book is that there is some off-book discussion of child abuse. There's not really any child abuse in this book per se, but like they do kind of hit on it quite a bit, especially like towards the end of the book and towards the middle of the book. This book was everything that I had hoped it would be, and so many things that I did not expect, but was pleasantly surprised by. If you are a fan of the Wayward Children series, this is like the Wayward Children series without the portal fantasy. Basically, this takes place in a world where there are magical children who are kept in orphanages so that the government can keep an eye on them. And Linus, who is our main character, actually is a caseworker helping to decide if these homes that these children are existing in are safe. For 17 years, Linus Baker has been working for DCAMI. I believe that's what the name of it is, or how you pronounce it. It is an acronym. It means Department in Charge of Magical Youth, but they use the acronym for the majority of the book, so I'm just going to call it DCAMI. Linus Baker is 27 years old, he has his own house, he lives in the city, and he's been working for DCAMI as a caseworker, going from orphanage to orphanage, evaluating the kids, trying to figure out like if they're in a safe environment, to figure out if this is a healthy environment, and to figure out if they're being taken well care of. Linus is also very lonely. He spends all of his time working. He's lucky to get 2 days off. His job is pretty much his whole life. He lives a very black and white job, very straightforward. He really doesn't do anything else. He doesn't really go on vacations. So because of all of his dedication, extremely upper management, which is what they call the higher ups in the building for this government facility. So this book, not only is it just magical, it's also got a lot of really fun humor in it as well. I found myself constantly cracking up with this book. It was so funny, and the extremely upper management takes an interest in him and calls him up to the office and says, hey, we have a level 4 security, which is the highest security you can get, orphanage on Mars Island that we need you to go check out because it has been quite a while since they've been evaluated, but it's top secret. You can't talk to anybody about it, and we're not going to tell you anything about it until after you get there. Here's a folder. See ya. Give us weekly updates. You're going to be there for a month. So he gets there and he learns that there are these 6 high priority, very dangerous, very magical children that he is going to Mars Island for. As a caseworker, he only experienced life as black and white. As he goes out into Mars Island, things just become color for him. They light up, they're beautiful, and suddenly like he's a little bit alive again. He dreams of going to the beach, he dreams of vacation, he dreams of a lot of things, but he never really got around to it because all he does is work. One of the most beautiful things I think about this book is that he goes from living the city life, a very black and white life where nothing really ever happens to him like special. All he's done is dream his whole life, and he feels that dreams are something that aren't necessarily meant to come true. Well, he gets to Mars Island and suddenly the world is in color, and he's near a beach and an ocean, 2 things that he's always dreamed about seeing that he's never gotten a chance to see. And now he's finally there and he's looking around and he realizes, I'm here. But there's so much more in store for him than that. That is just the beginning. He ends up meeting the guy in charge of this orphanage named Mr. Arthur Parnassus. And Mr. Parnassus is kind of like this very compassionate individual. He's very raw emotionally. He's very open emotionally. These kids, these 6 dangerous kids, are his entire life, and they wouldn't have a home if it wasn't for him. This deals so heavily with the found family trope. It's not even funny, but it's such a beautifully wonderful book that really dives into what it means to have a family, who your family is, and it's not necessary to be bound by blood to have this strong bond, to find belonging, even in a world where you're cast out and people are very afraid of you. And these kids, they've spent their whole life with people being afraid of them. Even the villagers, the local villagers, like that are just slightly off the island, they actually have to take a boat to get from the island to the nearest village. And even they are really, really scared of these kids. These villagers are very intimidated by the fact that there are magical kids on a little house, like on an island that's very close to them. So they don't actually want them there. And they're very like mean to them, like anytime like anything gets brought up having to do with them. So this book also deals very heavily with prejudice. This book, it does it in the context of magical children, like in them being very much against magical children, but also talks about acceptance and trying to overcome that prejudice. It's just a very powerful book. So let me just go ahead and read this to you because like this is actually highlights perfectly what I'm talking about. And it says, "These children are faced with nothing but preconceived notions about who they are, and they grow up to be adults who know only the same. You said it yourself. Lucy wasn't who you expected him to be, which means you already had decided in your head what he was. How can we fight prejudice if we do nothing to change it? If we allow it to fester, what's the point?" And that just really highlights, we have these preconceived notions and how it's really hard to fight it. What I think is like most important, like to emphasize about this book too, is that this book was simultaneously hard-hitting and funny. Like it had both things. It was almost like a perfect balance of both being hysterical yet having these really profound messages in this book. There was actually a poem in here that I wanted to share with you guys because it was so beautiful, and it was just wonderful. I just have to tell you guys, like, this is just, it's wonderful. And like, this is like within like the first 200 pages. So like, it doesn't like really allude like to the overall plot line, but I have to say it here because like, this just hit me so hard. "I am but paper, brittle and thin. I am held up to the sun and it shines right through me. I get written on and I can never be used again. These scratches are history. They're a story. They tell things for others to read, but they only see the words, and not what the words are written upon. I am but paper, and though there are many like me, none are exactly the same. I am parched parchment, I have lines, I have holes. Get me wet, and I melt. Light me on fire, and I burn. Take me in hardened hands, and I crumple. I tear, I am but paper, brittle and thin." And it's about being both strong and unique, but also very delicate. I can't tell you guys how much I love this book. Like, I am so sorry if this review comes out rambly. And I also said like this book is simultaneously funny as well as hard-hitting. And one of the neighbors, like, it's actually Linus's neighbor in the city. This happens like right from the get-go. And I really just loved this scene because it was just hilarious. Like, everybody like expects you like in the city life like just to conform and just to settle. And so Linus's neighbor, he was like this old woman, and she's kind of crotchety, and she is a little bit grumpy, and she doesn't understand like why he's not married, and she's like, "Oh, well, I have a son that you might be interested in, but you know, like, you're always working." She accuses him of being depressed, and he says, "I'm not depressed." And she looked at him up and down. "You aren't? Why on earth not?" I'm sure it's probably going to be funnier in context, but that kind of struck me like as being really funny because it's like almost like the norm in the city, like that everybody is depressed, everybody just settles, everybody is just okay with how things are. And Linus is like that for a very long time, and then he gets to the island and it's almost like this dream realized, and it was deeply moving. And you really get to see him come alive. He actually, like, the character development for Linus is just so profound. It's like he starts off like this by-the-book guy, this very like, I need to do this right. I do care deeply about the kids. I need to do this right. I need to make sure like that they are safe in this orphanage. That's why I'm here. I'm a caseworker. I am to report on everything that I see at this orphanage. And as time goes on, it's like he just kind of opens up and he becomes like this emotionally vulnerable character. And you always knew just judging by like everything that you knew about him from the get-go, like that he always had the potential for this, but it's almost like he was sheltered for so long, like in this office building, and never like really having like that deep connection like that he craved so ardently. And finally you see that he is becoming like this other person. This book isn't just a book about found families and magical orphanages and, you know, a male-male romance like that is very subtle and beautiful and just blossoms like right before your eyes and just feels completely natural. This book is also about dreams realized and finding out who you love and, you know, what's important to you and what really matters in life. This book in itself was such a journey, and it was a beautiful journey. Before Linus goes to this island, he's so lonely, and then he realizes like that he doesn't have to be that way, that life could be everything that he imagines it to be. He doesn't have to settle. He doesn't have to be depressed. He can feel loved. This book was ultimately like one of the best books I have read in a long time. This is a new all-time favorite. I gave this hands down a 5 out of 5 stars. And honestly, I put it down over a week ago, and it literally, like every single day, I literally cannot stop thinking about this. I think it is deeply moving. I think it is just perfectly profound, and it is funny and fun and beautiful and a balance of everything. And I highly recommend that you guys read it because it is one of the best books that I've read in a very, very, very long time. I want to wallpaper my house with this image just to remind myself every day that dreams do come true and that things do get better and that you can live your life in full technicolor and not just black and white. Arthur Parnasius is not just a man who runs an orphanage. He is a home to so many people, and finding a home in somebody, it's so beautiful. Well guys, I hope you guys like this review. If you guys like this review, hit the like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell icon if you guys want to receive emails every single time I post. I'm also on Instagram, Amazon, Twitter, and Goodreads. Those links are linked in the description below. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you guys again very soon.